In the last video, I left off with shaping these slips that will form the outer rim. And it occurred to me when I was looking at this with a closer eye that perhaps I was rushing this a little bit. And it's one of the things that I find that when you're trying to film a video, often there's a tendency to feel the pressure to get something posted and not spend the time that's needed to really do the job in the same quality that you would like to see. So I've been spending a bit of time just kind of backtracking and working a bit more on this roping. The reason why I want to get this roping completed or further along is because once the beading goes on, it's going to be quite close in proximity to the roping, and it may restrict some of my access for working the details. So, and I don't want to damage the beading. It's going to be very delicate, and I don't want to damage it. So these are one of the things that whenever you're doing a project, is you kind of strategize your approach, and it's important to make sure that you don't miss a stage, because often once you've missed it, you can't get that back. So I'm going to take advantage of this time now while I still have it. That way I'm not regretting it later. So one of the things that I've been doing is just going around balancing out the roping, making it a little bit more delicate, a little bit thinner, splitting the differences as I talked about in the last video. Now let me just show you this a little bit better. So this is one of the sets of roping that I've been working on most recently, and as you can see, it's not quite finished. I guess it all depends on the eye of the beholder, but for people with a refined eye will see that there's quite a lot of discrepancies there. And my goal is to eliminate as many of them as possible and balance them all out so that they're all the same. So whenever you're doing that, whenever you have a repeating pattern that you're trying to make them look all the same, you pick the smallest diameter and you match all the same to that. And because these were all, slightly off, and the way that they were set, some of them didn't set exactly in line with the others. So there's a little bit of organic movement to it, and some of it I'll leave because I think that there's some charm in having things not exactly 100% perfect, but I want them to be pleasing to the eye. But so what I'm just doing is I'm just going through with detail chisel, and I'm just literally just kind of munching away with it. And because it's relatively soft material, all I have to do is once in a while keen the edge of the chisel, and it pushes through quite nicely. And this is a technique that all carvers will use for details, is that once you've removed a lot of your waste in your stock and you get things refined, you can literally just get down to detail work. You don't need a hammer or a mallet necessarily. All you need is to be able to push, similar to wood carving. The reason why I know that is because I used to do a lot of wood carving back when I was young, long before I had any idea of working with stone. So it's something I can relate to, but it's a lovely way to get a lot of control and get exactly the finish that you want. And as I go through each stage of refinement, it's important to constantly be rubbing up your work, and that helps to stabilize and tighten up the surface, and then see what you're dealing with, because otherwise it gets very rough and it's next to impossible then for you to push your chisel through it. You really need a nice smooth surface for the chisel to glide across the surface. And as soon as it starts getting too rough, you just, that's when you really need the assistance of a mallet. So the pushing the chisel is really a final finish. I'm sure that there's an ancient term for it. I can't tell you what it is because I don't know, but it's a great way of getting your final finish without leaving chisel marks. So that's one thing that I've been working away with, and one of the other little details that I'm doing is all the I think I mentioned before the term unders and overs, and so this movement here as it passes under, it's what I'd call obviously the under, and this one that crosses over is the over. So if this was a real three-dimensional piece, you would expect the one that goes over to have a space under it as it rises from the surface. So what I'm doing is I'm just slightly undercutting just as it goes over to accentuate and elevate the dimension and really make it look more realistic. It's a nice little detail that really elevates the final finish. And it's those little things that they really sets it apart. And whenever you're looking at a piece, I always have fun looking at the old work that was done from previous generations, because it usually when a piece doesn't have all of those stages covered, it's not that the carver didn't know that he better. It's not that he wasn't capable of doing it, but often there's a timeline and they end up getting rushed. So they end up deciding, what point do they stop? And so it's always fun to see the stages that were left off at. And it's just one of those fun little things that you can, once you look at things a little bit more through a different set of lenses. So it's you can lose yourself for days just doing this. As it is, I've been spending all of today doing this, and I think almost half of yesterday is when I got started in on this. And I have cut a few more of the slips, but I just wanted to get on top of this first. And it's not the most exciting thing, but the finish is where it's at. That's the exciting part. So I thought that I would share that, because it's these fun little details that really make the difference. And you can apply these same details in other materials. It's not just in stone. So as you can see, when you get a close-up view of this, it's really quite unfinished. There's all the little things. Sorry about my hand there. Um, I want this piece to be just as exciting up close as it is from a distance. That's always there's two challenges to that, right? Because it's a simple piece, it's not a highly detailed piece. You can hide a lot of lack of finish in a very detailed piece, but when it's simple, it requires everything to be done at a higher degree. So one of the things that I've also been doing is deepening the unders so that it tightens it to the surface and it gives a broader range of the highs and the lows. It's a decision that I made kind of after the fact. When I was really looking at it, I realized that I had lots more stock to use, and really, bring it to the level of finish that I had originally envisioned. That was of a very delicate and exotic piece. If you do your work well, it'll be around long after you are, which is one of the reasons why I got into stone in the first place. It's the very idea of the feeling of permanence that stone has. Even though I know that there's many ancient works done in wood just as well, something seems very permanent about stone. And if you're prolific and you produce a lot, there's a good chance one or two copies of something that you've done will last. And that's kind of a nifty idea. I like that idea. I love seeing really nicely made pieces done by someone I'll never know the name of, but I get all the appreciation for their skill. Okay, so I'm back at this again today, and these are the a couple pieces that I had prepared the last day I was working. So yeah, so these are the first two. I've actually got them fastened on, and so now, because they're all oversized all the way around, as you can see, they're they're a little bit oversized, right? And I've done that on purpose because it gets kind of difficult handling finicky little pieces, but it also allows me to get them all mounted on, secured, and then finish off the final sweep. I'll put a compass back on, and I'll mark the final radius, so I get a nice smooth marked line. And the reason for that is what I have intended is for there to be a border or a margin, just framing it in, something like that. And then the beading will be tucked in front of that. And the reason for that is because they want the beading to be as delicate and as separate as possible. So if you could envision a bead, they're going to be roughly about 1 centimeter in diameter. There's this area and there's this area all the way around that have to be as removed as possible. And of course, then you've got the next bead beside that. So these are like what you'd call little lights. So I'll probably probe those with a drill bit, very, very delicately. And but the final connecting point will be the absolute tightest, smallest area. And so it'll make them very, very delicate in appearance. But the other connecting point will be to this margin. So this margin will be the kind of the string that connects all of the beads together physically from the same original piece. And then the other next connecting point to the disc will be the point at which they are glued on the surface. So it'll have the appearance that they'll be very vulnerable, and in certain regards they will be, but they'll be secured and protected by this final margin. And I think that it's going to add an interesting detail. Originally I had intended to have them just on their own, but I just think that they're just going to be far too delicate, and I think that having a protective border is probably the only chance that they'll have. Otherwise, they'll just pop right off. As strong as this stuff is in certain regards, it's fragile in others. So yeah, I think that's going to be a nice finish. Okay, so now that I've got a lot of these pieces shaped, you can see it's starting to come together. And I'm just laying out the way that they go, and you can see I've got 2 already mounted, which is gives you kind of an idea of how it's all going to look. Things are naturally dusty because that's the byproduct. I didn't film shaping them just because I find that sometimes filming can be too much of a distraction from productivity. So I wanted to get as much done as I could today, shaping these pieces, ideally before the end of the day. Oh yeah, I got a few more hours yet. So before the end of the day, I'd like to get these pieces fitted, if at all possible. But I just wanted to show how I'm going about doing this. And this is a piece that I haven't mounted yet, but it's just about ready to be mounted. And so you can see I've got if you can see that in the lighting. Ah, boy, everything's dusty. Okay, so yeah, I think you can see how it's notched out, and then that fits into the notch over the edge, just like I was showing you with the piece. And one of the fun things about doing this kind of a task is lining things up and making them flow. Just don't forget that all these pieces are random, and they're not even necessarily from the same. I don't think they're actually from the same slab, so that makes it a little bit more of a challenge to get just the right piece. And so I don't know if you've seen the video that I did on my onyx lamp project. You'll probably remember me lining up the veining for each of the panels, so as to appear as though it was made out of a solid block as much as possible. And that was the task or the point behind it was that I was taking random pieces that were just scraps and bringing them together so that they look like they actually belonged. That's kind of the fun of the whole project. So one of the fun things that I enjoy about this kind of a project is picking out the right, from these modeled scraps, the right piece in the right shape. And so that's making sure that they all kind of flow and they are all in the same color tone, because they're not all from the same piece. So obviously for this, you see, it's funny how it all looks. It's all about the appearances in light, but when things are wetted down, you get more of a true color. So this is how I'll pick out, see when it's wet, this is how I can pick out so obviously any piece that I want is going to be more in these color tones rather than this color tone. So I'll try to line it up as best as I can with this, wherever those tones occur. And you can see I've cut a piece off from here where it's fairly light. So that is much closer than at that end. And that's pretty much how I've been going about picking my pieces. And it's fun that way. It's make sure that the it all flows. But that's just wanted to show that part. And I'm just wanted to add in, I'm not sure if anybody's seen the video on me making my onyx grapes, which I personally think are super cool. But so I've gotten started on my next set. Whenever I have a little piece, then I start shaping them, and because it takes a while to gather up all of the enough pieces to make a full life-size set of grapes. But you can see what when they're roughed out, they still have to be all honed and then polished. So they'll reduce in size slightly, but that's how they start out. And yeah, it's kind of fun. It's these little jewels. I do enjoy that fun way of using up little scraps, little bits and pieces, rather than making them go to waste, because it's such a beautiful material. And I'm looking at when I come across the right colors, I'm going to make other colors of grapes. I want to make sure it has just the right properties, so that it looks as natural as possible. Yeah, that's the whole idea. But yeah, it's fun. It's I do enjoy it, and it's it's one of the little things that I do on the site.